Big news in the media world, big news in the Biden corruption world. We have Congressman Scott Perry here to find out what they're going to do about it, that, and what's going on in Sudan coming up tonight on I'm Right. All kinds of media news out there today. So let's begin with the good news, because I think there's a lesson in this for you, probably a couple lessons in this for you, and a lesson for me, and a lesson for all of us. Don Lemon is out at CNN. Now, why is Don Lemon out at CNN? Maybe you're sitting there right now saying, Jesse, it's because of all the harassment claims against him. Jesse, it's because of this scandal or that scandal. And if you're saying that, you're half right. And this is what I mean. There is a rule with employment. It is rule number one. It is the most important rule there is. And this applies to all of us, you, me, everybody. We humans, every one of us, have baggage of some kind, flaws, things about yourself that aren't ideal, okay? Make sure your talent outweighs your baggage at all times. Don Lemon would still be working at CNN, even with all those scandals, if he had the #1 rated show on the nightly news. The problem for Don Lemon is he was too stupid and uninteresting, plus the scandals. So the talent baggage scales got way out of whack, and his baggage simply outweighed his talent. So it's bye-bye. And there's a lesson for you in that, and a lesson for me. If you work in a sales office, and you want to show up hungover on a Friday, 15 minutes late. I wouldn't recommend that, but if you're the #1 sales guy in the office, you're going to get away with it. Boss will probably laugh and pat you on the back on the way in. Oh, Charlie, you nutball, go sell it today. Good luck out there. If you're dead last in the office, you've been missing your quota for a couple months, you better be there 15 minutes early making coffee for everybody else. Make sure your talent outweighs your baggage. That's one. And two, and this is so important for everybody because it applies professionally and personally to everyone. Don Lemon, of course, because he has the maturity of a 10-year-old girl, went on social media and blasted his former employer. No one told, I'm paraphrasing here, I wish someone had told me 17 years, no one had the decency to tell me that. Of course, CNN's PR came out and said that's not true, but none of that really matters. That's all details about Don Lemon, and who really cares about that? There's a lesson in this for you and me. This applies personally and professionally. In this social media age, what it's given us, for good and bad, plenty of both, it's given us all a platform. You don't have to have a show here on the First TV to have a platform. You have all these social media sites. You can pick up a phone and start saying interesting things. You might find yourself speaking to 100,000 people in a year if you're interesting enough, maybe more. Right? Everyone has a platform. And because of this social media age, everyone's addicted to attention of some kind. And when you leave your job, it's very, very, very tempting in this age. Whether you're Don Lemon or a decent human being, it's very tempting to get on Facebook right away. Man, I can't believe these idiots here at my former employer. I hate them. What stupid poo-poo heads. And you know what will happen when you do that? It'll feel good. Because all your friends will get on there and they'll all start hitting the like button or whatever it is. And they'll respond, you're so right. You go, girl. You don't need them. And you'll think to yourself, yeah, I really got them. But you didn't. You got yourself. Now, your former employer or your ex-wife or husband or boyfriend or girlfriend or whoever we're talking about here, maybe they deserve the blasting you gave them publicly. They probably do. They probably do. But you know who's watching that blasting? Your potential next employer who's looking at you trash your last employer on the way out the door on your Facebook page, because that's the first place employers are going to go, by the way, your social media account. They're looking at your Twitter account as you badmouth your ex, and they're saying, this guy's not worth it. Look at what a headache. Look at what a headache this guy. What if we have to fire him one day? Then we're going to get blasted on social media. I'm out. Don't ever, under any circumstances, blast your former employer publicly or your ex, wife, husband, boyfriend, girlfriend. Shut up. Everything doesn't have to be put on social media these days. All right? Which brings us to the real big media news of the day. Tucker Carlson is out at Fox News. Now, Tucker is a personal friend of mine, so I'm not going to get into really anything here other than to say I wish him the very best. Whatever he is going to do in the future, I am sure will be a smash success because you can't hide talent. Talent is what it is. So all those people on the left and the right today cheering, they somehow think this is the end of Tucker. Be serious. He's still more talented than all of you, and he'll be gigantic, whatever he does.
Are you expecting that there will be moves to impeach Joe Biden?
I suspect that, ma'am. If this cover-up shows what's going on, that we all assume is going on, and that the 51 folks were basically lied to and showed false documentation, how can you not?
That is quite a story that nobody's talking about. Joining me now, chairman of the wonderful House Freedom Caucus, but what we do without these people, Congressman Scott Perry of the great state of Pennsylvania. Congressman, Joe Biden, that is a little bit of a surprise to me. Not that I don't think he deserves it. I have always heard that Mayorkas, he was on the chopping block. I have not heard the president, though. Is there any merit to that?
Well, I don't know that there's merit yet, but I would say that I'm one of the people that sat in Treasury last week and went through hours of suspicious activity reports, Jesse, 3 big binders of them, of which we only scratched the surface. We came up with more of the Biden family receiving money from accounts that can't be identified, sending it to the accounts that can't be identified, from individuals or organizations that can't be identified. It's all very concerning, but until we have the proof in our hands, whether it's intelligence agents that were that falsified information to benefit the President Biden, or whether it's influence peddling that can be proven, I will say this, Jesse, and you know this already. There's a lot of smoke. There is a lot of smoke.
There's a lot of smoke. Trying to figure out now. Obviously, I don't ever want you to speak out of turn, and I know you wouldn't anyway. I don't know what's impeachable. For instance, this Anthony Blinken thing. Okay, Anthony Blinken, not Secretary of State at the time, calls up some spy, gets a bunch of former spies to sign on to a letter. All right, that's dirty and dishonest and horrific. I don't know that that's impeachable. Nobody was elected at the time. Am I a little off track there?
No, you're not off track, but I would say this. Impeachment is often characterized as a legal circumstance where there's something, you violated chapter and verse, U.S. code, blah, blah, blah. Impeachment is a political tool, and I think we should remember that. And we saw it all too well during the last presidency. And so, it says high crimes and misdemeanors, but obviously that's in the eye of the beholder. And I would say regarding Mayorkas, and quite honestly, regarding President Biden, they're not interested in following the law, certainly when it comes to securing our border. And if that's the case, which it is, that might be seen where it doesn't say that's a crime of commission. It certainly can be considered a crime of omission.
No. Well, one thing that concerns me greatly, I know it concerns you as well, is Merrick Garland's conduct since that lapdog has been appointed Attorney General. We have tons of information on Merrick Garland, from going after school board parents based on a letter that the unions wrote him in conjunction with the White House, to now potentially stonewalling the Hunter Biden investigation. This is the top law enforcement officer in the United States of America. As you well know, if he's a political hack, and he clearly is, he can't stay there.
Well, let's recharacterize that, Jesse. And I know you're trying to use the standard of decorum, but you said stonewalling an investigation. The Democrats, and rightly so, would call that obstruction of justice if that's the case.
Yeah.
And yet that needs to be ferreted out. But if that is the case, impeachment is the least of the Attorney General's worries, in my opinion.
Congressman, it feels, from a 30,000-foot view, it feels very ominous to the normal American when they look at an FBI that is clearly out of control, a Central Intelligence Agency that appears to be clearly out of control, a DOJ itself that looks to be totally out of control. These are institutions that have the ability to ruin lives, and if they are now aiming squarely at enemies of the Democrat Party, where does that leave us? What recourse do we have? We have to do something about the national security state before it ends this place.
Yeah, well, there's absolutely no doubt about it that the apparatus of government and things like the FBI and the intelligence agencies have been weaponized against the American people and political rivals and opponents of the left. There's just there really isn't any argument about that. The question is, what do we do? Look, we don't have a president right now who's interested in reforming this. So what we can do, the only thing we can do is in the House of Representatives, make sure that we starve them for their resources. And we're coming into the period of appropriations. They can have no appropriation, right? They can't have a new FBI building, and they're going to have to be curtailed until such time as we get somebody in the executive branch that will actually appoint someone who will turn that thing upside down, clean out the rot, and if necessary, dismantle the organization and start all over again. That's essentially where we are, Jesse. We have to bide our time to a certain extent because of our the political situation about the branches of government and who's in control of them. But what we can do coming into appropriations is make sure they don't that we're not funding our own demise, and that is that should not be a heavy lift for Republicans. And if it is, then Republicans need to if you can't vote for that, you need to reconsider what you're doing in this party and what you're doing as an elected official as a Republican.
Amen. And finally, which brings me to the debt ceiling fight. Obviously, this is going to be a fight. I've seen this before. You've seen this before. We're going to demand some things. Obviously, I want everything. You want everything. We're not going to get everything. What is a realistic expectation when we finally do sign on to the debt ceiling? What can I hope as someone who loves freedom? What can I hope to get as a concession from these people?
The minimum concessions you can get is money that's been allocated for things that we can't afford and don't want that hasn't been spent. That's things like the Inflation Reduction Act, tax credits. That's things like unspent COVID money. That's something like the IRS expansion. Those things should be easy for Republicans to vote to get rid of. We should all be on board for that. Like you said, you're not going to get everything. This is the start of the conversation. We'll see where it goes. But I will say this. Every time the president or Schumer tries to up the ante, the Republicans must also follow in kind and provide more things that we're just going to get rid of in this woke, weaponized government that we can't afford, that is out of control. And, things like the REINS Act, where we rein in this unbridled regulatory state, is something that we absolutely must have. We must have a Republican Party that's both House and Senate willing to appropriate to pre-COVID level spending, not post-COVID level, pre-COVID level, because there's no reason to be spending trillions of dollars that we don't have on programs that we don't need, don't want, can't afford, and are obviously completely unnecessary.
Amen. Congressman, go get him. Appreciate you.
Thank you. God bless you, Jesse.
You too. All right. Why am I hearing about Sudan? I don't even know where Sudan is. I'm kidding. I know where it is. But I woke up in the news and there's all kinds of talk about Sudan, Russians in Sudan, civil war in Sudan, embassy problems for us in Sudan, 16,000 American civilians there. What's going on? We're going to talk to Lisa Daftari. She's going to make us smart about that. Next, before we get to that, I'm going to read you something. It's easy to forget that veterans who look okay physically are not necessarily doing okay on the inside. You have someone you know like this, brother, husband, son, friend, maybe a fellow veteran who fought there with you. It's easy to forget that, hey, he's got all his fingers and toes, but he's not doing well. Boulder Crest has not forgotten. And I'll tell you what, I just love this organization. I love that I get messages like this. This was one of my viewers for Boulder Crest. Master Chief, right into the Boulder Crest founder. I just want to send you a quick note of gratitude for what your heart felt that became what I know to be the Boulder Crest Foundation. I was not fortunate to have had a friend or buddy refer me. I found it, Boulder Crest, because of a commercial on Jesse Kelly. Then I had the courage to fill out an application, and I even tried to find a way to get out of attending. Because of you, your 3 to 5 teams, my guides, countless selfless people who donate to BSF and PTSD, I am beginning a new journey and realizing that I have some incredible potential. I'm looking forward to my next steps with a genuine and sincere appreciation. Thank you. That's what you've been doing when you give to Boulder Crest, putting veterans back together again like that. Thank you. If you want to contribute, go to bouldercrest.org and do so. They need us. We'll be back. Sudan. Why am I hearing about Sudan today? Why should I care? It seems like it's so far away. I don't understand what's going on, but there are a lot of things going on in Sudan with international implications. And since you don't know and I don't know, let's talk to the expert. Joining us now, Editor-in-Chief of Foreign Desk, Lisa Daftari. Lisa, okay, Sudan, it's way over there in Africa or something. Why do I care what's going on?
Yeah, you make a great point. We would not be hearing about this if this were any, off the charts African nation that does not have gold mines, does not have a geographic significance to the big players. And here we are with Sudan, of course, Russia, China, the United States, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, all having a lot of interest in what happens and how this pans out in Sudan.
Okay, well, why are we evacuating our embassy? What's going on there? People don't know anything about factions or civil wars or anything. What is happening there today?
Right. So just to break it down really quickly, Sudan has an interim government. It is being controlled by the military, the Sudanese Free Army. There's also the RSF, which is the Response Action Army, and they are supposed to integrate, to work together. And in the last year and a half, they have been trying to work together to see where they need to agree on things, where they need to compromise on things. And it just seems like these two generals both want their themselves to be the future of the nation, and they cannot come to a compromise. So instead of coming to this compromise regarding integration, where they will be, the two militaries are now fighting each other. And of course, that death toll rising, almost hitting 200 as of this morning. And of course, what are we concerned about? The evacuations, because we know what happened in Afghanistan. We do not want a repeat of what happened in Afghanistan. There are 18,000 plus American citizens who are registered as being in Sudan. Over the weekend, those citizens were told not to come to the embassy. They were told to shelter in place. Also over the weekend, helicopters coming in and taking out the embassy personnel. Again, the citizens being told to shelter in place. So what gives? Why won't we evacuate these individuals? What are we waiting for? As of this morning, the State Department being pressed as to why these individuals are not being evacuated. And we were told that it is too dangerous for us to conduct evacuations right now. And the best thing for these individuals to do, despite the fact that the personnel from the embassy were evacuated, the best thing to do for these citizens will be to shelter in place. So we're continuing to keep an eye on this. The Foreign Desk, my publication, we reached out directly to the State Department as well, and we were told the same thing, that over the weekend they were told not to evacuate. They were told not to go to the embassy, and they're continuing with that protocol as of this hour.
Just grief. Here was John Kirby from Today talking about that.
I want to push back on this idea that there's 16,000 Americans who want to get out. We don't have firm estimates of the exact number of American citizens who are in Sudan. They don't have to register with us. They don't have to tell us that they're there. We think the vast majority of these American citizens in Sudan, and they're not all in Khartoum, are dual nationals. These are people who grew up in Sudan, who have families there, work there, businesses there, who don't want to leave. So I think we need to be careful about that number.
Okay, Lisa, that sounds like another cover-up from an administration that doesn't have any plans on asserting its authority and protecting its citizens. Am I nailing that about right?
Yes, that's about right. Look, he may be right in the fact that they don't want to leave, but what if they do? And what about the individuals that they do? Even 1, 10, 15, 100 of them. Look, I was told the number 18,000. They're working with the number 16,000. There may be many more than that. To his point, they're not all registered. So why are we assuming that there are fewer than and not more than? So, and again, maybe they want to come out and maybe they don't. But why don't we have some sort of standard in place particularly given this administration's failures in Afghanistan. Now, the talking point that I've been repeating this morning, like ad nauseum, is that we are up against an election year. We are farther from Afghanistan. This administration has to work with the failures of Afghanistan. So I do believe they will move quickly to correct this, because they are moving backwards this morning. All of these talking points, when John Kirby comes out onto the podium, when the State Department refers media outlets like my own and others to these talking points, this is damage on their foreign policy, continued damage on the foreign policy, continuing not to have protocols in place to keep our national security and our assets safe. They woke up this morning without a plan, and now all these questions are coming into play. The point is, there may be 16,000 and there may be 16, but what are we going to do? And they will have to move very quickly to come up with a plan, because again, they have the stains of Afghanistan, the horrors of Afghanistan on their foreign policy track record. They don't want Sudan to be another Afghanistan.
Good grief. All right, well, it's sadly not just Sudan. You have something you're calling Iran's revolution. What? What revolution? What's happening?
Right. Well, it would be nice if the media kept up with this. You're right. People aren't calling it a revolution. This is what many people are calling the women's movement or the freedom movement inside Iran. But this is, in fact, a revolution. For 7 months now, Iranians have been on the streets. And the catalyst of this round of protests was Mahsa Amini, the 22-year-old who was beaten for wearing her hijab, her Islamic headscarf, in a lax position. She was taken into custody. She was beaten and then slipped into a coma and passed away. This becoming almost the perfect catalyst to start this round of protests, which quickly escalated into a revolution. Women burning their headscarves, coming out onto the streets, dancing without their headscarves, and the government, the regime, fighting back, rounding up these young people, rounding up university students, putting fire into the prison where a lot of these protesters were held. We have rounding up of journalists and people who are reporting on this movement, and it continues. It is something that we are reporting on. We get a lot of information from social media, from these courageous Iranians who are filming themselves, who are sending them to us. We are doing the translations. We're putting it out on the web. We don't have reporters on the ground in Iran, unfortunately, but we do have very brave citizen journalists who are telling us their stories, and we're here to tell their story to the rest of the world.
All right, finally, I've got about 1,000 questions I want to ask you tonight, Lisa, but this Jack Teixeira, I don't even know how to say the guy's name, the Pentagon leaker who leaked out some information. Now, we've heard a lot about him and his arrest, but we've heard precious little about the information he did leak, information that makes it look like Ukraine is getting their teeth kicked in. Do I have that about right?
Yes. The information about Ukraine has been the most mind-boggling, because in these reports, we found out that it is a dire situation in Ukraine. It's not something that the Ukrainians can win, but at the same time, there are reports about how the United States will continue to put pressure on South Korea and on Israel to give more, because they potentially have more to give. So in the same breath, we know that this is a complete failure. We know that we've given billions, and we know we've outstretched ourselves in terms of giving aid to Ukraine. It's not working. It's a dead end. But yet the United States wants to put pressure on our allies to give more to this war.
Yeah. Lisa, you're the best. Come back soon. Make us smarter again.
I absolutely will. Thank you.
All right. Got some culture war stuff in the news. You know we're always all over that with Kyra Davis next. Love Kyra. Before we get to Kyra, you know what else I love? Not taking any medications. Now, I'm not a medicated person, but even over-the-counter stuff. I don't like taking ibuprofen. I don't like taking it. And I don't like that for, 2 decades, I was taking over-the-counter allergy medication. Just sneezing and eyes watering. It was always my eyes that got me the worst. The day I got to throw away that bottle of medication was a great day. And I owe Eden Pure a debt of gratitude for that day. Because on top of cleaning the viruses and mold in the air, this wonderful little black box that just goes in the outlet in the wall, it has taken my allergies away. I keep one where I sleep, one where my son sleeps, one in our general living area. We keep 3 more here at the studio. We just all breathe better. Life is better, man. They got a 3-pack, $200 off right now. $200 off for a 3-pack. Go get one and you'll see what I mean. EdenPureDeals.com. Code Jesse is what gets you $200 off the 3-pack. Go. Enjoy it. We'll be back.
One more. So Monday, you're going to have 3 of the lawmakers who protested
peacefully protested.
Who peacefully protested after the Nashville Covenant School shooting. Have any of the victims or the victims' families been invited to the White House?
I don't have anything to read out to you about any invite.
Why?
I just don't have anything at this time to read out to you any invite.
Joining me now, my friend Kyra Davis, author of the book Drawing Lines. I love that Kyra wades into culture war stuff in smart ways, because not many people do on our side. Kyra, okay, we all know the deal here, right? Some tranny nutball walks in a Christian school and massacres a bunch of Christians. The White House very clearly chose a side, and it's really that simple, isn't it? Everything else is just hand-wringing. That's really what it is.
No, that's exactly what it is, of course. I mean, you saw KJP when she was asked the question. I mean, she really dismissed it out of hand. She gave a short answer. She knew what Peter was getting at. And the answer is, of course, there's a reason why. Now, I'm glad it's being pointed out, but it's certainly not shocking. We are in an era where everything has been politicized, even the victimizing of innocent people. So yeah, this is a us and them battle. And I know a lot of people hate that because they don't want it to be us and them. You know, I don't want it to be us and them. I'd like it to just be us, America. But that's not the era we're living in. That's not where we are right now in our nation's history, unfortunately. And so, Jesse, you know, I'd rather it be us that win than them.
Amen. I don't know about you, Kyra, but I hear, and I myself do this too when I'm with friends and family, I hear lamenting of that. And I'll lament it to my kids when I'm having these discussions with them. And I'll tell them that, look, I could watch TV on a Friday night. I could watch the ABC nightly news lineup, and it would be Family Matters and Full House and, you know, shows with values. And you could have a couple laughs. And you'd see a commercial for Bud Light with actual men being men and women being women. It would be okay. And now you can't do anything. You have to look up the newest gay Disney movie before you take your son there. And it sucks, but that's where we are.
It is where we are, but I don't think that the answer for conservatives is to retreat from the culture. It's actually why I wrote my book, because I think that, well, and we talk about this all the time, Jesse, that we're here because conservatives have retreated from the culture, and we have said, well, you know, we're a bit above that. We'll do policy. We'll do more white papers. We'll raise politicians and not artists. And the thing is that all of this stuff matters. You know, when we're looking at what happened in Tennessee and the ensuing reaction, the result of that, even in their own legislature, you know, the Democrats are messaging really well. They are harnessing the power of the internet, of influencers. Every time I see a conservative or a Republican complain about some TikTok influencer getting invited to the White House, I think to myself, that's exactly what the Republicans should be doing. Why aren't they doing this? The Republicans should be out right now throwing money at all of these people on TikTok, on Instagram, on Twitter with huge followings, and throwing money at them to throw around their influence. The Democrats are doing it, and they're doing it well. And that's why they can get away with inviting the people who represent the murderer of those Tennessee folks to the White House, but not invite the families and the co-workers of the victims to the White House.
Kyra, you wrote a great piece about Bud Light and what happened with them, Anheuser-Busch in general, because there are some interesting things at play here. Anheuser-Busch has traditionally not done a lot of that. All of a sudden, boom, it's tranny Bud Light. They get slaughtered in the market. People stop buying beer. Their VP of marketing is now gone bye-bye. But how could a company that's been around so long, I'm sure they have 1 million Harvard degrees working there, all kinds of smart people, how could a company that size make a mistake that even a moron like me could see coming a mile away?
Well, probably the problem is that they have 1 million Harvard degrees over there. That's Those aren't the people who are in touch with the average Bud Light drinker. I don't know if you got to see a picture of Alyssa Heinerscheid. She's pictured there, but with the group at the VP, at the Bud Light marketing team, and it's all young, white professionals. So you know exactly what their points of view are. You know exactly what their ideology is, but I found this really fascinating analysis of body language on YouTube. It's by a woman called Body Language Ghost, and she analyzes the body language in different viral interviews. And she analyzed the body language of this VP of marketing, Alyssa Heinerscheid, in an interview that she gave a few months ago. And in this interview, Alyssa says, I was talking to my professional coach. Well, who is a professional coach? A professional coach is someone that elitist Karens hire to tell them what to do and think. And when you start listening to her talk about her professional coach, you actually start to hear where she's getting these ideas, how they're making it into her work. This professional coach is guiding her to sort of disrupt the system, to make a change, to make a difference. It used to be you went to work at a company like Anheuser-Busch to make money. Now you go there to make a change. And we're seeing the result of the change she's making. The other thing, Jesse, that I'll say this is that I had the opportunity to interview a corporate CEO once on my own show, Just Listen to Yourself, available wherever you get your podcasts. And I asked him, what's going on at the corporate level? Don't these guys want to make money? Who cares about the rest of the stuff? And he said that it used to be that the guys in the boardroom, the executives, they were the ones that made the decisions. But now HR makes the decisions because HR has so much power over the boardroom. They can bring lawsuits. They can bring punishments down. They can bring down to bear some of the draconian government rules that have been passed. So HR is ruling the boardroom, but HR doesn't make anything or earn anything.
Yeah, the ultimate, like I've said 1,000 times, the most vicious, violent, evil person on the planet is the liberal white woman. And that is just a fact. Kyra Davis, I can say that. You can't because you're black. Thank you, Kyra. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Bye.
All right. We got Lighten the Mood next. Before we get to Lighten the Mood, let's get to this. Rough Greens. If you only feed kids fast food burgers and fries every day, your kids are going to be sick. Well, the same thing is true for our dogs. Feed them kibble every day and they'll get sick too. And that's because naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black, the founder of Rough Greens, is right when he says dog food is dead food. In fact, take some kibble in a bowl and set it on your shelf for 2 to 3 years and it'll just sit there. It won't spoil or grow fungus, nothing. That's because it's dead. And remember, Rough Greens is not dog food, it's a dog supplement that Dr. Black specifically formulated with live vitamins and minerals, digestive enzymes, probiotics, and omega oils to help your dog deal with their digestive and elimination problems. Bad breath, low energy, achy joints, and a whole lot more. You don't have to change your dog's food. Just sprinkle on some Rough Greens. It's that easy. Dr. Black is so convinced that Rough Greens will help your dog, he's offering a free Jumpstart trial bag. All you have to do is cover the shipping. A free Jumpstart trial bag. Only available at roughgreens.com/Jesse. That's roughgreens.com/Jesse. We'll be back. It's time to lighten the mood. And I figured since my buddy Tucker and Fox have parted ways, again, wishing them both the best, now would be an appropriate time to focus on me and my greatest hits on Tucker's show. So the production team put together a couple of my favorites. Thank you, fellas. Before we get to that, though, let's get to this. We have to prepare, always. Water, ammo, food. It doesn't make you crazy or paranoid. It makes you somebody who cares about your family and yourself and in the future. You understand that evil/stupid people run this country now. They run the Western world now, and they are destroying our dollar. They're wrecking our food supply. Something weird is going on with the food supply, is it not? My Patriot Supply has emergency 3-month food kits. Even FEMA recommends you have emergency 3-month food kits. Get some emergency food in your home. Every person who lives with you needs 3 months worth of food. My Patriot Supply has kits ready to go and they're $200 off right now. Don't wait until you need it. Don't wait until you need it. Then it's too late. Go to mypatriotsupply.com and get yours tonight, all right? mypatriotsupply.com. All right, well, as an ode to me and Tucker, here was me talking about Dome.
Are you surprised to learn that Kamala Harris, if that's what she's going by, is like the worst boss in Washington and nasty to the people who work for her?
It's the most predictable thing in the world, Tucker. Everybody watching you right now has worked for or worked with somebody who just has ambition just dripping off of their pores. And that's Kamala Harris. Those types of people will do anything to get ahead. They treat their bosses like crap. They treat their employees like crap. That's why she knifed Joe Biden in the debate with all that race nonsense. There was no need to do that. It's the same reason she cackles like a dead hyena every time she's asked an uncomfortable question. It's the same reason she started out her political career as Willie Brown's bratwurst bun. Kamala Harris will do anything to get ahead.
Oh, and this one, this little doozy here got us attacked from the Chinese government itself.
We don't need a military that's woman-friendly. We don't need a military that's gay-friendly, with all due respect to the Air Force. We need a military that's flat-out hostile. We need a military full of type A men who want to sit on a throne of Chinese skulls. But we don't have that now. We can't even get women off of naval vessels. That should be step one, but most of them are already pregnant anyway.
Tucker, thank you for the memories, my friend. We'll talk to you soon, and I will see you tomorrow.